position. We're going to do a quick meditation. So give yourself some time to settle your body in place until you know it's rock solid and as firm as the ground you sit on. Firm with the city of New York all the way down to the earth beneath this building. Once you've scanned your body and settled into that, just begin to focus your attention on the breath. Just by being aware of the sensation of the breath entering and exiting your nostrils. See if you can sharpen your awareness of the breath by getting a little bit finer than what you were focusing on before. So if you were focusing on the sensation, just see if you can see a difference between the pause when it exits and enters your body. If you're focusing on the tip of your nostril, see if you can get a sensation of temperature, the difference of exiting and entering. However you are focusing on the breath, just go a little bit finer, press your mind a little tighter on the breath until you are just the breath. Your awareness is just the breath. Now I'd like you to get a sense of not your physicality, but your mind, the consciousness, the raw awareness that experiences everything. See if you can get a sense of the stream of your mind as it continues. It was focusing on the breath before. Just that raw awareness, that sensing. There is a part of that mind that is aware of itself. Now see if you can imagine how many other minds you perceive in your everyday life, in your world, in your concept of history. How many sentient beings, how many minds can you conceive of in the vastness of the universe you know? And see if you can imagine an evolution of some of those minds to a perfect state, beyond suffering, beyond getting caught up. Perfect still minds. The closest word we could use to describe them would be peace. A peace of mind. an expanded awareness of all things. And see if you can invite one of those minds in front of you in whatever shape and form you conceive of. Ask them please to come and be with you. And they appear in whatever way your mind is capable of apprehending them. It could be your teacher, it could be a historical figure. At the end, it's a conception of the highest evolution of mind, of a perfect mind. See if you can generate some kind of gratitude for having the capacity to conceive of them in front of you and to keep them, offer them something. Keep generating that perspective by engaging with them, giving them something. Now, knowing that their capacities can help you and help the world you experience, see if you can conjure up in front of them your biggest blocker, the thing that disturbs your mind most often. Whether it's an attitude, it's some kind of habit of looking at the world or being in the world. Maybe it's jealousy or anger. Whatever negativity is that disturbs your mind, see if you can conjure it up and show it to them, knowing that they have the perfect antidote for it. Whatever it is, make sure to be very clear. Just pick one, the most annoying thing that disturbs your mind. And in showing them, imagine what it would be like to live an entire existence without that thought reoccurring, that negative emotion reappearing. Completely gone. Imagine what that would be like forever. Never having to deal with jealousy or anger or pride, whatever it is. See if you can generate some kind of joy for the capacity of considering that as a possibility. Be happy that you can imagine a life and a mind without that affliction. And then add to that joy by considering the hard work of people you know who are stopping their negativities, making efforts towards positivity. Just be happy for their efforts. Doesn't matter if they succeed or fail, they just have the willingness to remove negativity, and that's such a goodness. And then I want you to return your awareness to the being in front of you. Make them as strong in your awareness as you can, as bright or as palpable, using as many of the senses that you can to imagine their presence so close to you, right in front of you. Imagine their mind capable of anything. Peaceful, complete understanding of all things. And then ask them as if your life depended on it, that they help you clear that one obstacle, the one that would lead you, that prevents you from getting free from your cycles. Just the deepest heartfelt request to please teach you that one thing that will change everything. And upon asking, you know that bursting from them is every willingness to do so. You just have to listen. And then ask them to always stay close, and as you do, watch them rise up and turn into a face the same direction you're facing, getting smaller and brighter until they rest neatly at the crown of your head, almost touching, as bright as the sun and tiny as a pea. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you for doing that, was nice. Okay, quick, just checking in. What are we studying?
Buddhism.
Buddhism. If this wasn't full of really good substance, I'll throw it at your head.
Wake up, listen.
Wake up, listen. Thank you, that's a better answer.
Do you want
Okay.
a real answer?
Thank you. Thank you.
The way of life.
Okay, what is the way of life of a Bodhisattva designed to teach you? What are you designed to learn from it? What's the point of having this text appear in the world? Say it really loud so we can all hear you.
Yeah. Wish for enlightenment, compassion,
Yeah, so there's all these synonyms, right? It's to generate the wish for enlightenment for the sake of every sentient being. In a way, it's it is ultimate compassion. To wish that you can look at the reality of this existence with its flaws and its goodnesses and understand that you can break free from the flaws and blow out of the water the goodnesses until they, I don't know, vortex into permanence.
But you can't do that until you clear the way.
Excellent. So then the text has been saying you can generate that wish spontaneously in your heart. It is a way. It is a possible way of being, a way of life. It is a way of existing. Also, you're not bound by the things you don't even know are called your limitations. Yeah. Even us who have wonderful existences are still limited in our view of what we are and what we could be. Because there's some fundamental things stopping us. And so we remove some of those things, and we learned the preliminaries to removing the obstacles and the negativities. Then we learned the 4 forces to remove any past negativity as we engage in activity to generate enough virtue, yeah, to power us to begin to have this thing. And then do you remember what the last class was about? Before we had an amazing weekend with Holy Geshe Maharaj. Do you remember the last class? It was about taking joy.
Yes.
It was about being happy, not being sad Westerners with all the abundance and then being uber depressed. I'm so bad. Yeah? That also doesn't mean stupid confidence. I'm number one, everybody. You know? Doesn't mean that either. It's this interesting thing, but it's about taking joy, being really happy, being completely engulfed in a happiness about doing the ultimate goodnesses. The ultimate goodnesses. You know, and for me that means, in a practical sense, that means, yes, understanding the teachings and trying to live them and making efforts to recode my way of perceiving so it opens up a door to outside the box. There is something outside the box. To experience that truly, to make contact with that experience, with that reality. We can all know for sure, guaranteed, you don't need 2 brain cells to figure out that there is more to the experience of existence than the limited senses that are providing us the data about that existence tell us. Does that make sense? Yeah, we have limited receptors that give us a limited perspective because it gives us a limited intake of what reality is. Making contact with that outside the boxness, making contact with that for a tiny bit of human life breaks open the habituation. It's so powerful, it burns so much that it breaks open the habituation of seeing ourselves as limited beings and begins the real journey of exiting what we call samsaric existence. Is that getting through? Is that, yeah? You have to keep tricking your mind not to think, I'm studying Buddhism. I mean, I know you were being funny, but we tend to say, oh, I know that. Yeah? I know that thing. Well, if you're still having mental afflictions, if you're still having negativities, if you're still jealous, if you're still angry, if you don't like your stomach, yeah, etc., etc., and you don't get it. I don't get it. If I keep having that, to know something and not to do it, it means not to know it. To know and not to do means not to know. So there is something in the doing over and over and over and repeating and making intellectual contact with these ideas, that your responsibility, my responsibility, is to internalize them, to code this thing, that thing. Because you are more than this. And this will wear out. Something continues. And you're at the whim of that, coming and going, so long as you hold the view that things exist the way they appear. So this book, this precious set of ink on paper, it's like that, but in really nice writing, informs us, connects with us, and says, you can wake up. You can wake up. So I was thinking on the way here, what's the one thing If we're really serious about this, so I'm going to get up your bums a little bit, right? If we're really serious about liberation, if we really believe that there's such a thing as enlightenment, if we really think that it's possible to break free from a habituation where you are in a state of nirvana or peace or Buddhahood, whatever you, Shiva, whatever you call it, yeah? If it's possible, what would you do to get it? If it's available for you next week on Channel 10, yeah, what would you do? Would you cancel some things in your everyday so you could make contact with that truth or that reality? If it was true that it freed every hurt, if it removed it, what would you do to make contact with that world? Really? And I know, I waste so much time doing other important things on Facebook. But if it was top of mind, if it was really clear that it is if for you it's possible to do some investigation and some internal tweaking through which you get to, by knowing your mind, the filter of everything, meditating mostly, study meditating, what would you cancel to get there? Or is the Facebook that important for me, or the other thing very important? What if it was really that serious? What would we go to get it? So today's topic, although last topic was about being really happy that these things existed, today's topic is kicking your ass to say, Master Shantideva gets into the thing. Remember, there were two things we were supposed to be happy about at the end of last class, if you remember at all. The things that this wish would do for you, and then what you could do with this wish for others. Remember? And at the end of the day, it was about the removal of two types of two types of obstacles: mental affliction obstacles and obstacles to omniscience. I was listening. I didn't even look at my notes.
Like the removal of what?
Huh?
What are the two things? The removal of
mental affliction obstacles. So the rocks on the road that prevent you from getting to nirvana, and there's big ones and little ones and medium ones. Mental affliction obstacles, and then that would just get you nirvana, right? Because when you are free from mental afflictions, you are in a state of Shiva, peace, which means nothing's disturbing your mind. We'll cover that today.
And the second one was removal of
Obstacles to omniscience, to knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it really is the Mahayana track that gets you to Buddhahood versus nirvana. That's the division there. So the thing here, and it was Iki thinking about sharing this information in the class. I'm going to actually ask in the second half of the class for someone to actually read the verses from Master Shantideva, maybe an actor. Yeah. I'm trying not to plant a negative seed.
Don't do it.
I'm really trying. Yeah.
I'm begging you.
Okay. So it was Iki thinking about what Master Shantideva goes into now, because when I first heard these ideas, it got so deep, it changed almost 2 decades of existence, and it's still doing it. We fight in the world, we struggle in the world with external things, right? All the time. External meaning the neighbor, the train, my hair, all these objects. We struggle with them. They make us unhappy. We punch them, we push them, we drag them, we pull them, we want them, we don't want them. Struggle with all these things. Some of them really get under our skin and they're horrible to us. And when we don't like them, we consider them our enemies. Master Shantideva goes to war in this part of the chapter, and it's like, who's your enemy really? Really, who is your enemy? What if you didn't know that your enemy is always with you, has always been with you, has been stuck to you. Every time you turn around, it moves behind you. And I was trying to think, what's an analogy? It's like somebody right now living in every room of your house. Doesn't matter which room you go into, they are there. You can't quite see them, and they're spooky, and they're disgusting, and they make everything crap for you. Even the nice things that appear to you. They are moving them about in your room right now. When you go home, they are there. When you're on the train, they are behind you. It's like having somebody move in that you've never invited, screwing with your stuff all the time. And they've been doing it from time without beginning, so you don't even see them. You don't even think it's weird anymore that the things that break apart are breaking apart because someone is doing that. We're so used to it, we don't think it's strange. That goodness has disappeared. We think it's okay that people should bomb each other. I can't do anything about it. We've accepted these boundaries, and the wake up-ism is saying, if you're in that mode of thinking, you're screwed. You're just going to be in that mode of thinking for time without beginning, without end. There's no out for you if you're blind to the real enemy. The real enemy, I mean, in the Wheel of Life, is Mr. Death as a depiction of your real enemy. And Master Shantideva says, it's your mental afflictions, your nyomo. In Tibetan, your kleshas, in Sanskrit, klesha. Yeah? Comes from the Sanskrit root to klish, which is to disturb, aggravate, clash, annoy. Did I say annoy? I just did. Yeah. Distress, to bother, to harm, irritate, etc. So these are called, these are the things that Master Shantideva says is your real enemy. If you are trying to generate this wish, if you are truly on a path to freedom, don't go fighting ghosts, people that are already dead. Yeah? Your business partner, your boss, your ex-boyfriend, they're dead already. As soon as they're born, they're dead. Yeah, not only that, with those ones, if you hold tight enough, they go away. These ones, they stay. They've been with you since time without beginning. They're in your house right now. They're in your clothes. They're in the food you eat. These nyomons, mental afflictions is a translation, bad thoughts, afflictive emotions. You'll get all these words in English translations of nyomon, yeah, or klesha in Sanskrit. So I figured I would do Geshe Michael did this in the 90s. We'll do the dry definitions and lists of nyomons because you want to identify the thing that is constantly attached to you, biting, dragging in such a skillful way that, like I said, they are invisible to us. We are so used to having them, we don't know they're there. So we'll go through the list of definitions and what they are, and today we'll do 10 top kleshas. Next week we'll do the secondary 20. Yeah. So in other words, today we're probably going to do the generals of the army we're fighting. Yeah. And then 20, I don't know what's after generals.
Next week, Thanksgiving.
A week after Thanksgiving, we'll do, true, we'll do
The other 85.
yeah, and then 84,000 after the 20. Yeah, we won't do the 84,000. We do them all the time. So the definition is a thought, and Geshe Michael of a nyoma, of a klesha. Yeah. Geshe Michael translated a thought that the Tibetan actually means mental function, which is a thought, it's a type of mental function, which ruins your peace of mind, or ruins the stream of your mind. It ruins the peace of the stream of your mind. So you can summarize it, a short definition would be a thought which ruins your peace of mind. So already you think about the definition, you think, okay, what is it that ruins my peace of mind? Whenever you're upset, that's a nyomon. Whenever you are distressed, that's a nyomon. You'll see the flavor of them when we do the list. This is the most powerful generals coming up at 10. If you didn't have any, your peace of mind would be undisturbed, right? You'd be in a state of peace. That is nirvana. That's an arhat, right? Someone who has removed any nyomons, any mental afflictions, is in a state of peace. If nothing could move their mind to a darkness, to a negativity, to a negative state, then they are in nirvana, right?
Are there layers or levels of that though? Of, you know, because I'm always watching my mind create these things. So at least I'm aware that they're happening.
Yeah, we'll get, like, at the very end, we'll get to the big difference between, can you permanently get rid of them, nirvana, or Buddhahood, afterwards? Or can you suppress them for long enough? Yeah? Like, be aware of that they're happening, suppress your reaction to some degree, which will create more of them. So begin to shrink down your response that generates them. Just watch them arise.
But didn't you just say that's an arhat?
Hmm?
Didn't you just say an arhat has removed all the mental affliction?
Yeah, are you asking if there's levels of arhats, or are you saying is there levels of removing your mental afflictions?
Levels of removing the mental.
Yeah, that's
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
There are levels of removing?
Of course. You start off with unable to remove all of them, and you end up with being able to remove the last
And
one.
it's an interesting question. When you
Yeah.
when you reach nirvana, it's a cessation. Up until then, you've got them. I think of it as more like working with them, understanding them and working with them, than thinking I can remove them before. I mean, I'm not sure of that, but thinking of
Yeah.
removing them before you reach nirvana.
This is why I asked, because the moment you recognize how you're responding to your own kleshas, you know that it's just, then it just becomes.
How do things work normally for you guys? Like, how do you learn things?
Well, no, I think I become aware of it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that I can remove my mental afflictions without reaching nirvana. I can.
How do you reach nirvana? That is removing your mental afflictions. There is no other way of removing your mental afflictions without
Right,
reaching nirvana.
so I'm not expecting to remove them before that point.
Right.
I'm expecting to work
Do you
with
think
them.
they all go together?
I don't know.
Or do you think that you get rid of some of them? And this is a good way of thinking, right?
I think
Thank
they
you for
all
the
go
question.
together.
Huh?
Weren't they all good together?
You think they all go together? You could be absolutely angry up until the moment where,
No, you're dealing with them, so
I
you're
think-
controlling them, you're working them.
okay,
Wouldn't it be at the point when you say emptiness directly?
I think the point of the meditation was that there are some that afflict us more than others. So in previous lives, we've worked to remove some of them, and then we're left with some others that we still have to suppress.
Good.
I would also question how separate they all are. Like,
Right.
we give them all different names, but ultimately they kind of share the
Cool.
same nature.
cool.
They're all related.
What
to
is
the
their
poisons.
ultimate nature? We're going to get to the end of the class before we even start it. What is their ultimate nature? What is the thing?
Ignorance?
Are you just saying that?
No.
No?
What did
You're
she say?
ignorant, I think.
Ignorance.
Ignorance.
Yeah? Right, you've all graduated. You can go home now.
Stop
Woo!
board.
But isn't it like an attachment to self that, like, is at the root of it? Like a self-preserving sort of thing that's at the root of all of them?
Yeah, the word
That's
self
ignorance.
here refers to ignorance, self-existent,
Yeah.
me as a self-existent thing. We'll get to it, right? It's actually one of the top 10. We'll deal with it. And Stephen's answer was also correct. The only way you can permanently remove them is through seeing emptiness directly, is through making contact with that reality, which a taste of it for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on who you're listening to, who has had that experience, if you believe them, is so powerful and so true that it can smash the propensity to continue that habituation, to have any of these ignorances color and grow your afflictions. Yeah? So how do you learn a language? You learn letters, and then you learn words, and then you string them together, and it's an evolution.
And then when you reach nirvana, you speak the language?
When you reach nirvana, you speak the language of peace.
Can you have a non-permanent cessation of mental afflictions?
Ooh.
That's a good question. Can you have a non-permanent? I would dare say absolutely. We have them all the time. You have them all the time. For the moments you're... See, we were discussing it 2 classes ago. When you have a certain thought in your mind, the opposite of that thought cannot take that place. There's nothing else that can be in that place. If you're at peace and you're joyful and full of love, people can say the most disgusting things to you, and you're like, oh, that's so sweet, it's stupid, you know. And then that's a temporary cessation of thinking that person's stupid. Yeah. Later on, you can have the same person say the same thing. You might not be in a peaceful state of mind. This temporary cessation has. So the word cessation with temporary sort of is like, right? Because it implies finished, right? You can have a lapse maybe. Yeah. But it's good to think about that. And it's just like meditation with all these things that we're going to cover, right? So who's been angry today? Yeah? Okay. Who was, no, really keep your hands up. Who was aware of their anger today at whatever level? Yeah? Good. Who acted out their anger, even if it was controlled, even if it was saying something but you knew that you were channeling your anger? Right. Who then did something to clean it? To stop it? Who did you? Yeah, you're right. So you're okay. All of them karmas. All of them will give you a result. All of them. All 3 of them. Let me do the class, okay? Stop the debate.
We did the end.
Or I'm gonna have a mental affliction. Yeah. And then that's.
Did you just get angry?
Oh my God, Ecclesia.
Oh, Master Shantideva, when I heard this, because up until this point I thought wake-upism, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas were the kindest of the sweetest of the Buddhists. This guy's got an attitude to seek and destroy these things, these nyomongs. It's not peaceful Buddhism at this point. When I heard this, I was transfixed, going, are you kidding? 700 AD, this dude, Master Shantideva, sits there and pledges war, unequivocal, unquestioning war on the things that destroy everything. He's like, don't even screw with them for a second, and you'll get to it at the end. Because don't even entertain them for a second. Don't even think you can play with them. They will eat you up for all existence. As soon as you're aware of them, seek and destroy. It's amazing to hear a Buddhist talking these terms, because it was almost frightening. And so you have to understand what he's talking about, why he's talking this way, and what does his attitude seek to fix. Yeah? So you understand that what we're dealing with now, the thing that prevents us from getting to any state of peace is a thing called a, and in Tibetan, yeah, Nyongmong. Okay, Nyongmong. The N-Y-O-N, Nyon Mong, M-O-N-G.
N-Y-O-N-M-O-N-G.
Yeah. Now you don't say Nyongmong, you say Nyomong. Yeah, Nyomong. Of course, the characters are different and not blah blah blah. What's the root of klesha? Klish in Sanskrit, and what's klish mean? Aggravate, irritate, bother, blah blah blah. Harm, clash. Yeah, correct. Cool. And what's the definition of a nyomong? A
Thought.
mental
oh, it's a mental fiction. But what's the definition
the
of a
mental function which ruins the peace of the stream of your mind.
Excellent, very nice. Okay, we did part 1, which wasn't even part. Okay. So let's go to imagining part of nirvana, okay? We'll get to how we get to nirvana later, but let's get, what I try to do in the meditation is say, I know you've got your particular thing. I know I've got my particular thing, right? Mine's probably pride, if I have to give it one of these names. Is it? It's probably doubt. No. Sorry. What is mine, Stephen?
Violence.
It's violence against. Thanks, Stephen. We know what yours is. Lying? No. So if you have your own, right? And if you don't know it, like I just blanked out. Like I'm trying to think, what is the one thing that keeps occurring? For me, it is a kind of doubt. It is a kind of lack of self-confidence that says you don't know anything. You're stupid. You're like it keeps undermining me. Yeah. And together with that, for me, it's also desperately trying to fit into whatever the culture or the group and making everybody happy. And as an excuse of that, I retard my growth. I retard my. It's a good excuse not to do yoga, not to do etc. 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 Right? That's how my combination of things work for me. At the bottom of that, I'm calling it pride because it's like I don't want to look stupid, and I'm thinking that's what it would be for me. What's yours? What's the one that in the big important moments of your life where you are face to face with something that could really help you, you screw it up because of that thing? Yeah? Or you're about to get that perfect relationship, or you're about to get your heart burst open, you're about to have some kind of understanding something, and that part of you comes up again. And you've seen it if you've lived more than 5 years, right? You've seen a pattern. So the question is now, let's play with nirvana a second. Really imagine if that did not exist in your consciousness. If that capacity did not exist at all. If it was so far removed from a possibility that you don't even have a memory of it existing. And that's just one of the questions. Imagine really, whatever it is for you, truly, right? Imagine the good that it would be for you. Imagine the learning it would open you up to, the experiences that it would open you up to, the things that you're close to entering because of that thing. Imagine being open to them and entering into a relationship with that idea or that person or whatever, because you don't have that obstruction. Imagine the goodness it would do to your heart. Imagine the kind of person you would be if you had that goodness. Imagine what confidence you would move through in the world. And then with that, imagine what good you could do for others, really, if you were a person at peace from that. A person not grabbed by that 80% or 70% or 60% of your time and energy is spent protecting that thing or engaging with that thing. Imagine what you would be like for others because you were at some kind of peace with that. This is what we're talking about for real. We're talking about a state of being, a self-perpetuating state of being. That's why I like that book by the cognitive psychologist in New York called, it's a trite name for his book, it's not great. Transforming Your Life by Jeffrey Young, I think, Jeffrey Young. He's a New York psychologist. He's got, years of case studies of people's schemers. He calls them schemers. He's identified 18 classic Western perpetuating mental afflictions that control everything, every way we engage with our world. So I'll give you an example of his book, because it'll relate. For example, he'll mention one case study that he's got permission from his patients, where the schemer, the unaware state of being, says, I'm not good enough. And that's the frame that they put through everything. I didn't get the job because I'm not good enough. I don't have a boyfriend because I'm not good enough. I don't get fit because I'm not good enough. Or whatever it is, it's always colored with this affliction. In his things, I'm not good enough. And then that, because the affliction has a momentum, their behavior is to continue that momentum. So you put yourself in relationships where it proves to you that you're not good enough. You engage in an interaction with work that says to you, see, I told you I'm not good enough. Whether you got the job, but you didn't quite get the job, the words that come up in your mind is more proof of that self-perpetuating cycle. And that binds you to this kind of existence. That's just a nominal way of looking at the ultimate way of experiencing a being called sentient. The Buddha said that's true for your very existence as a human. Forget your little petty view of self in that regard. He's saying your whole experience as human is that kind of schema that can equally be smashed. And if it was, you would be a transformed entity. You would be awake. You would be a Buddha, awake to that reality that we're trying to make contact with in meditation. Is that okay, or did I go crazy? No? Did I go crazy? Mm-mm. No? Okay. I can go.
You went violent.
Okay. So just imagine, right? It would be a beautiful freedom, yeah? Just getting rid of one of them, pain in the ass one. It would be really lovely, yeah? And you would all be extra lovely to people around you. Not that you're not lovely now, yeah? Thanks to my karma, you're all very lovely. For me. So the Abhidhamma Kosha, do you remember? Do you remember when we studied karma, I think? The Abhidhamma Kosha talked about what a bad thought is, or a bad karma is.
A bad deed.
It's a bad movement of the mind, right? That's a bad karma. Karma is a movement of the mind. Yeah. So according to the Abhidhamma Kosha, any negative state of mind is a bad karma.
Mm-hmm. A bad karma is a negative movement of
karma is a movement of the mind, a negative karma is a negative movement of the mind. And what follows. So that if you say nyomons are thoughts which ruin your peace of mind, and the Abhidhamma Kosha says that there's no virtuous negative state of mind, it's just a bad karma. For the exception of one. Do you remember the one exception?
You're saying bad karma, but...
I know, I'm doing it to make you go, what?
Regret?
Great, regret about what?
Doing bad karma.
Intelligent regret about screwing up. Yeah, okay, cool. So that's the only negative state of mind which is not classified as a bad karma. Yeah, because it generates more virtue. Yeah? And then we can get into the whole karma discussion, which is what I've tried to do by saying Abhidhamma Kosha, negative karma. By the definition of Abhidhamma Kosha, does anybody have a plug-in for this? A for?
Oh, I think I do actually.
Would you be so kind? It's about to die and I want David to read out.
Is there one right there?
No, I think that's auxiliary.
Which book is
Oh wait,
Four.
is that it right there?
No, that's a 5.
After you, the charger's still there.
It's alright, we got. Thank you very much. That was a distraction for having to talk about karma. So, a karma, it's saying if you're having there is no virtuous negative state of mind except for regret, right? Saying, I screwed up. Except for that one where you're sorry that you did something negative, meaning you see the consequences of it. except for that, anytime your mind is in a negative state, it's planting a negative karma.
Mhm.
Now, is that true?
I believe so.
Anytime your mind is in a negative state.
It's planting a negative karma. Is that true?
What if you're
Well, are you aware of ignorance all the time?
Yeah, it's true.
Is it?
Don't you?
Go on. Go.
Well-
I'm trying to drag a thought.
Well, I didn't take the karma class, but I'm just
Super clever.
extrapolating based on things I've heard. Don't you have to have an intention to plant a karma?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, of course.
yeah.
That's very good. What's the definition of karma? Yeah, that's a simple one. Yes, and what follows? And what follows? So you could have
What follows?
a ripening. You could have a ripening. You could have someone can cut you with a knife, and you hurt. And would that be a positive or negative thought that goes through your head?
Negative.
Negative.
Depends on how you see it.
No? Good, because if you're getting surgery and they're removing the blood, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Okay, that wasn't my point. You could. Could you have a negative ripening? Could you have a negative experience of a karma ripening? Is that planting a karma?
No.
As the fruit of your previous actions?
No.
Huh?
It's your.
I think it is.
No, it's
I think
it's
it
your
is.
reaction to the ripening of the negative seed.
But you're still.
Okay, you just jumped one step ahead of what I said. I said, if something ripens and something hurts, right? Someone calls you a terrible something, or your feelings got hurt, right? I looked at you and went, Emily, well, how come you don't know it? Yeah, and and something moved inside you, and let's say that was a negative, okay? Is that a negative karma?
No, that's a flowering of it.
That's a flowering of a
Of a
negative
previous
karma,
karma.
right?
Previous
It's
negative. Yeah.
your perception of the event, your experience of the
Right.
event, and
And
then
then-
your response.
And then your response
The
comes
response is what
Right.
matters.
to that, right?
Right.
And a blind response without an automatic blind response saying, no, you're not looking at me, right, or something, has some negativity attached to it, and then you plant some negative karma. Only then do you plant negative karma, if a negative state of mind popped in
But
there.
I guess it happens so quickly, like you have to be really, really skillful to even perceive the fact that you're reacting, right?
But that's the point of what we're doing.
How quick does it happen?
That's why we meditate.
65 seconds.
Right, I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying, like,
Did you just disagree with her?
no, I'm not like. What I'm
trying to
saying,
blame
what
you.
I'm saying is disproving what or not
I-
disproving, but taking some weight off of what I previously
Yeah, I heard
said.
you. Yeah.
You have to be able to actually perceive the
Perceive,
fact
yeah.
that what is occurring is a reaction before you can alter the reaction. So that's why it's important to just look at the movement of your mind, especially when you don't have that type of control yet.
Right. So according to the texts, your mind is planting karmas at 65. Yeah, 64, 65. Depends which tape you listen to.
64, 65.
Yeah,
uh,
per finger snap.
per second.
Movements of, no, per finger snap. Which I'm sure there's probably more finger snaps in a second than one. Yeah?
So you have the negative thought in your mind and reaction, but you don't actually act on it.
This is actually the crux of practice. Okay, it's not the point of the class, but here is the crux of once you get an understanding of where you are having a negative feeling. So most of the world is just reacting, right? If you include animals and insects and humans, most of us, if I push you, you're pushing back. That's our impulse. That's our default mechanism. Yeah. Animal realm, certainly. You bite me, I bite you, or run away. One of the two. Right? Now we enter practitioner mode. A little bit of understanding of the nature of the world. Yeah? A little bit of understanding. So I say something to you, and you get heated up, you get upset. You feel an upsetness. Is that a real thing? Trick question. Is that a real thing? The
Yeah.
upsetness that you felt.
Yes.
To you, it
Of
is.
course it is, right? It's a real, you are feeling hot under the collar, and you didn't like the choice of words I had. You did something about what just went down, connected to something inside of you, and you got hot, right? You got upset. Your mind is disturbed. It has a nyomong, yeah? It has a mental affliction. It is afflicted. It's got a problem, yeah? Did that problem come from what I said?
No.
No. So that's a little bit of training, right? You know that with training. You don't know that if you didn't come to this class. You think it came from my words. And even if you did come to this class, you still think it came from the words. We do. That's what the ignorance is, the misknowing, yeah, is. Ignorance is not knowing, it's misknowing, it's misinterpreting. So then after a little bit of practice, because you've meditated enough to slow down your mind, to go, maybe you meditate for 3 years, okay? Every day for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you do 3 years. And maybe sometime in those 3 years, you get one really good insight. And in that insight, you see how your mind just attached a ripening to an external event and made an incorrect connection, right? He did that. You actually see that. You actually know that to be true. And that, because you've studied enough and you've had a visceral depth of understanding that is bigger than the leaps of conclusion we jump to with ignorance, you know that to be a truth. So then you come out of that intellectual part of the meditation and you treat your world in accordance with that understanding. And so next time someone says words, and you do have a heat come up because you've got a pattern around protecting that identity or that ego, whatever it is, you know it's not coming from them. Even though everything in your sense being is telling you the bastard just did that to me, right? Even though that's the dialogue that's going on, the observer, the one that got something in meditation says, that can't possibly be, I know. Despite all evidence to the contrary. Yeah? I know this is coming from me. And this emotion can only ever be dumped on this object through my experience. Simple proof of emptiness. If someone else was in the room, could they have a different reaction? If they can have a slightly different reaction, that's not coming from that person. We got that? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So I'm trying to slowly answer a question.
Well, that's also like how Lama Maru talks about how like there's that irritating person, but like that person has friends, so that's the proof that that's coming from
Perfect.
you, not
Perfect.
right?
Yeah. So you know that thing. Did you just have a bad karma ripen because you had a negative experience with that person?
Yes.
Rewind. Yeah, you did, right? Now, can you perpetuate that karma by yelling back?
Yes.
Absolutely. What do you do to that karma as it ripens? You have a ripening of a negative karma from your mom. What do you do if you choose not to react, because as it's happening, you are remembering what happened in meditation to you. You are remembering whatever you studied. You're trying desperately to look for the emptiness of this person. You're not even listening to them. Yeah? You're so lost in trying to slow down the connection between your emotion and that object that you can't even be bothered being upset, because your mind is so consumed in trying to conceive of wisdom, the emptiness of the situation. What karma are you planting at that moment as the negative thing arose? A brilliant karma. Yeah? A virtue beyond compare. You're actually destroying the very root of that type of thing continuing to happen. How many times do you need to do that before you do that permanently? All the time. You've got to do it all the time. Until when? Until you're not longer doing it all the time. Until it is the only thing you do.
Until it doesn't show up anymore.
Yeah, until it doesn't show up anymore. And you do them one by one, but you really only have to knock down a few, and then you can knock down masses.
But isn't the very act of the perception of the action changing it? If you no longer perceive it as negative, then it's simply not.
Well, but it still feels negative.
You still had a negative thing to arise the whole engagement, is what
Still
we're saying.
perceived it as
I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's. There are beings that can move their karmas as they are arising. I'm not one of those beings. Yeah, and until you have a grip on the ultimate nature of reality, then
Right,
you don't
because
have
we
those
create our
superpowers.
reality as we see it.
As we see it. Yeah, absolutely. That is close to the out. Yeah. To get there, you need to do those steps. Does that answer your question enough? Cool. Can I do the class now? Yeah. Okay.
You're
No.
so violent.
So here, I go to the 6 top generals of the enemy, right? The 6 top mental afflictions. So I'll say some Tibetans for the 5, and the last one was too long, I'm not going to do it. Say Duchak. Duchak. Okay, this is desire in the common translation, but Geshe Michael likes calling it ignorant liking. Yeah? Liking things ignorantly. And he makes the distinction, I think I did it 2 classes ago, because to have desire, right, rarely do we have that kind of passionate desire that is implied by the translation desire, or attachment is another word used here to translate dukkha. This is number 1 of the 6 top generals of Nyomongs. We got that? Yeah? It's liking things ignorantly. It has 2 implications. First of all, if you're liking things, it means you don't want to lose them, right? Number 2, the reason he says ignorantly liking things, this kind of attachment, desire, whatever the translation is, of dukkha, says you are necessarily misapprehending the object you're engaging with, whether it's a thought, a person, a cake, doesn't matter. You are misapprehending where it's coming from. Whatever thing your mind is engaged with, cake, partner, studying class, your body, or your thoughts, they're all objects of the mind. Yeah? These are all objects. Liking them ignorantly means not wanting to be separated from them, misunderstanding where they come from, think they exist out there, right? That's why it's ignorant. Out there meaning separate to you engaging with it, or separate to your karmas rising, to use in language. And thirdly, it implies that you're willing to do a dumb thing to keep it. Because you think it's out there, you think you have to go and manipulate things out there to keep it. So usually, liking things ignorantly implies you misunderstand the object, and you're likely to do a negative deed to keep having it, to stay engaged with it, right? Not Nyomong number 1. Now we then have the whole discussion about is the God, and it was my misunderstanding of Buddhist practice when I first came in here. It took months, if not years, to get it out of my head. Are we not supposed to like anything? You know, and I've done this many times, right? We've discussed it, but really, what do you think? You come to these classes, and you come to meditation, and you come to do some kind of practice. It'd be yoga, it'd be anything of your weird practice, right, including this. What's the goal of it? Are we supposed to not like anything? If one of the mental afflictions is desire, attachment, yeah? It's what's been shoved down our throat. Geshe Michael says, no, it's liking things ignorantly.
Just understand.
I think you
Don't
have
be
to,
ignorant about the desire.
I think you have to understand the impermanence of the objects around you. And
My question was, are you not supposed to like anything?
No.
No.
Can you like some things?
Yes.
Give me the list of things you can like.
Everything.
Your answer with Paul's.
You can like everything if you understand where things come from.
Does the Dalai Lama like things?
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, everything he probably
Because
does.
liking still, even if you know where it comes from, it can still distract you from
Yeah.
the practice.
But I think
Can
You
it?
understand it's distracting.
If you're not attached to it.
It's not like a.
This is
Yeah, but
this is
it's
why it's so
like-
interesting,
but you
right?
have to not, yeah, you have to understand the impermanence and not be attached to it.
But it's not just understanding. Because if it was
It's-
understanding, we'd all be out. Like,
Right, it's being able to like practice that on a minute by minute basis with the thing that you like. I mean, I don't think I'm skilled enough to do that. Even with bagels. Like much less like, you know,
Even with
grander like, well, I had a bagel incident today. I was very upset about.
You had a bagel?
They gave me real cream cheese and not tofu cream cheese, so I could eat the bagel.
Oh my
But my
God.
point is, so it kind of goes back to what I thought it was Emily. Yeah, oh, you're there, you are. Was saying is like, yeah, we can like things, but is it better to like things and like half the time still be ignorant about it? Or is it better to just try to like be neutral?
So this is the point of question, because if you really ask yourself, and I know for me, it took a long time to battle with my practice of this information. And I don't know to what level you believe that being neutral is the goal of Buddhism. You know? So and it is what many people have been teaching. Are we supposed to be, are these tankas in supposed heavens full of traffic jams and annoying people in the subway and farts and the rest, and then the Buddhists are sitting there going, it's all cool, dude, I'm fine? You know, is there annoying things on an enlightened world and they're just okay, neutral about it? That's it. You've got to think about it that way, you see. You've got to say, is the goal of Buddhist practice, and I wish we didn't have to call it Buddhist practice, I wish we could call it
Hindu practice.
Hindu practice. I wish we could call it world practice. It's almost empty. And part of me still believes that, you know? Part of me still believes if I can endure the crap, that as a child gets blown up next to me and I'm a Buddha, I'm cool. It's not my karma. I'm okay. Is that?
That's not how it works.
That's not it, right?
No.
It can't be it.
Right, but what's the mechanism of the sadness there? Because it kind like we discuss like base human ignorant engagement and then completely like
Yeah, I know.
what's-
And what's the mechanism we're
Yeah,
talking
how
about?
to-
It's the
okay.
cold practice. It's the whole thing. It's in this text. It's the 6 perfections, but you can't do the 6 perfections without the preliminary practices, the 7 limbs, which were the pre-purification, the purification, the engaging in goodness, the rejoicing after the ceremony, the taking some vows, and then practicing the 6 perfections. That's what this book is telling you, is the steps to that. And here we're going into detail to say, okay, what is it that we're removing so we can have this experience, right? And they're saying the number 1 thing out of the top 10, what the thing is nyomons, all pleasures, right? But here is some classes of them. Here's a division of the top 6, which you'll see is 10, yeah? And then we'll do 20 next week, and then the 84,000 that come that continue is we won't do. The first one they're saying is liking things ignorantly, being translated as attachment or desire. It is the chicken in the center of the wheel of life. Yeah? It is the thoughts that are continuously going, I like. Yeah? The second nyomon, the second mental affliction would be ignorantly disliking things, right? Are you, as an enlightened being, supposed to dislike things? Can you dislike anything?
Yes.
Yes, ignorance.
Could it be a suffering?
Violence.
Yeah? Now it's got a different implication, so we're talking language. I don't know what internal deep associations each of you have. I know it for me. This is where your practice is your practice. I know for me that there is still, after 18 years, some stupid side of me that believes that equanimity stuff. Equanimity doesn't mean that. Equanimity is a completely different thing. In meditation, it's a thing, but it's not associated with not liking things and not disliking things. Of course you're supposed to like goodness. Of course you're not supposed to like suffering. But if you engage with that ignorantly, you're perpetuating more of the suffering and perpetuating more of the suffering. If you're engaging with a negative boss who's yelling at you, let's go this way. I can only give you personal experience here. If you're engaging with a negative boss for years who comes in and yells at you, and all your automatic response is to yell back, and tomorrow they yell at you, and tomorrow you yell back, and tomorrow they yell at you, and tomorrow you yell back, and someday you meet a being who tells you you're doing it all wrong, you idiot, you should try something different. And when you're desperate enough because you've been through the ringer enough and you've hurt your face enough and you've lost for ideas that are not available to you in the world, you listen to a monk and you'll go, okay, I'll try that ridiculous upside down idea, which is instead of yelling back, instead of fighting anger with anger, you submit to something in your mind that says, look for something else, look for something else, look for not yelling, don't yell, don't yell, don't yell, look for where the feeling has come from, look for where the emotion is, oh my God, it's me, it's not him anymore. And then you look at that being who is still angry and still yelling, it is still true that they exist that way. For them, from my perception of them, and from their perception of them from me. Does that make sense? I see them that way, and I see that they see themselves that way. Years of yelling didn't stop it. 2 months of working hard, 3 months of working hard to seeing that the experience is not self-existent, isn't that way from its own side, completely transformed that creature from a negative planting, yelling, to one moment of complete and utter love and compassion that you'd never felt before, that changed everything. So then, does the arising of a negative karma always necessarily create a negative result? There is something else happening in the person engaging with that arising, yeah? Which is what you were saying about being aware of your thoughts.
That sounds like a purification too.
You're cleaning something through wisdom,
Right.
through seeing how things could possibly truly exist behind the veil of this lie. Yeah? The way things appear here is not the way they are. The way we can verify that is if they were the way they are, then every way we engage with them must always give us the same result, and that's not the case. Here, it's all up for grabs. There's nothing that's predictable here. Things change like that. Engaging with that world through the veil of lie to what is ultimately causing it will produce a guaranteed result. And you can only practice that yourself. So liking things ignorantly and disliking things ignorantly means just without too much thinking, without consideration, you're just engaging with your world thinking that stuff is providing the ups and lows of your world. So you run away from the things you don't like, you jump towards the things you do, and you're willing to trample over other people and your morality and your ethics in order to do it. And that's just creating more causes for more suffering. That's why they're the first two. Is that cool? Yeah.
So when we say things in this context, those things could also be people then.
And thoughts and emotions and any object. When we say object, and this was a confusion for me as well for a while, it means object of the mind, object of your awareness.
I just wanted to double check. So say Nyangel. So Nagyel. Sorry, Nagyel. Nagyel. Have you heard that word before?
Yes.
What is it? You've heard it in a positive context. Here it's a mental affliction. Pride here. Okay. So number 3 is pride. They say there's 9 kinds of pride we didn't go into it in the original class, but basically the 9, it's negative pride, okay? There's a differentiation between pride that says I boast or think myself superior to others and therefore I'm doing a negativity towards them, versus a pride that says I just did a good job, yeah? Which is the other nagyo, okay? So let's differentiate that. It's good to be proud of doing a good job. It's good to do, in the West, I guess we have a word that's pride that can be used both positively and negatively. Here, it's that negative emotion that thinks yourself above, it means me king, nagyo, yeah? Me king, I'm king, number one, Vince number one. And the 9 types they divide into, I think there's 3 of 3. And the first part is being proud about qualities you don't even have, right? And like, oh, I'm just so good at this, but you don't even have them. There's 3 levels of that. The next 3 are about being proud about qualities you sort of have, but you're not that great at. You have them, like maybe you're a good reader or whatever, but you're really not that. But you're like, oh, I'm so good at it. And the last one, which is equally stupid, is to be proud and attached, if you like, or ignorantly liking and putting others down in comparison in your mind for qualities you do have and that are valid. You might be a scholar, you might be a fantastic meditator, but to have pride about it means you don't understand where it came from, right? To be proud in a negative way, meaning in a judgment towards others way, not in a I'm an awesome meditator, I'm kicking ass in my meditation. That's good, okay? That's not the nagyo here, and that's not the me king, yeah? We're talking about the one that judges others, puts others down in your mind, saying, I'm meditating more than they are, you know, or something like that. Like, you've got no idea what they're meditating as. It's all an illusion of your mind. It means you don't really understand where the perception of you meditating well comes from. Where would the perception of you meditating well come from?
Yourself.
It would come from yourself. How would it be created? How would you have a positive karma ripen whereby you validly perceive yourself as being an astute, accomplished meditator?
You help other people meditate.
Right, you make sure that you're taking care of other people, right? You understand where it's coming from because you're encouraging other people to get focused, to do all the things, all the components that relate to the way you perceive your meditation, right? Maybe it's timeliness, maybe it's depth, maybe it's time, I don't know what it is. But whatever you perceive as, I'm a great meditator, which you might be, as soon as you think that that's better than that one and they're so silly for it, you're destroying the causes for it, because the causes for it is encouraging and helping other people become that, right? So that's why it's a afflictive emotion. That's why it's, we got that? Good. So wisdom, meaning understanding that things are not self-existent, is the only way you can keep those things. As you can see, the theme has been misunderstanding, nyomons, yeah? Sorry. This one is not what you think it is. Do you know Marikpa? Marikpa? You've heard of this, right? Marikpa.
Ignorance.
Great, good. Now, how do you know Marikpa in the Wheel of Life? The pig and the first of the links of dependent origination, the blind woman, yeah? Walking over a cliff, yeah?
So ignorance in itself is its own mental affliction?
Here it's a specific kind of ignorance, okay? So here it's not those ignorances we just described. In the list of 6 nyomons, marikpa, or ignorance, it's just plain old ignorance about causality, not thinking that the law of karma works. Meaning, having ignorance that whatever you do to others is not going to happen to you. Like, yelling at the boss is never going to result in you being yelled at. It's that kind of ignorance, yeah? It's just really, yeah.
Can you just say that whole double negative definition thing again? It's not thinking
that karma doesn't happen.
Did I
or
just do that?
something like
Okay,
that?
sorry.
No, because I know that's like the thing.
Yeah, no, it's not the case here.
Oh, okay.
It's not the case here. It's not the use of a double negative to get you to emptiness. Yeah, it's a plain old misunderstanding of
Thinking
the
that
laws of karma. Karma doesn't work. Yeah, okay. So it's not grasping to self-existence like the other ignorance is, or Marikpa in this little like this is in your mind a state of mind, a thought that disturbs your peace of mind, right? And it disturbs it. How would this disturb your peace of mind? How would not thinking that karma works disturb your peace of mind?
Because you're not thinking clearly.
Because you're going to plan negative.
You'll do anything you want.
You're just out of sync with the way things actually work. So you're going to be failing all the time. Yeah, cool. So say the fifth one is Metsom. I really disliked this one when I heard it the first time. Here we go. Ready?
You had a klesha about a
Huh?
klesha?
Huh?
You
I had a klesha about a klesha.
klesha.
Yeah. For a long time, and actually, you'll see why now. It's called doubt. Yeah. I so disliked Geshe Michael's explanation of this because I felt I was being trapped into having to believe Buddhism. Yeah. I'm like, what? So just be patient. There's some amazing understanding in, let's call it a lazy doubt, okay? Because here, I mean, what he kept saying back then, which I didn't believe, he's like, you can verify the way things work in about 30 minutes. Any of the assertions of Buddhism, intellectually, just 30 minutes of thinking about it or perceiving it, you can verify. I'm like, well, you're condensing all of Buddhism in 30 minutes. And if you've got doubt about them, you're just planting a negative, a mental affliction. I'm like, what? Now I'm trapped in this terrible thing called Buddhism? Anyway. But let's see if I can not do the same to you, okay? Because that was my misreading of what he was saying. What he was saying was, there is enough information in the hundreds of thousands of texts and the few thousands that have been translated into English, Buddha's words and other explanations about the nature of reality and how it is that we go through cycles of existence with suffering. There's enough information for us to verify quite simply how to stop that suffering. Yeah? The whole karma and emptiness thing that we just covered in less than 10 minutes, that is the essence of all of it. Understanding where things come from forces you to be ethical and therefore produce the reality you expect. Being lost in the whirlpool of samsaric existence where reaction for reaction just guarantees more suffering. That by itself, that took 2 minutes, right? A minute. So then you go, okay, but my big affliction with this was, you're talking about future lives, and I don't believe about future lives, and how can you prove them? And you're talking about karma, and I had all these preconceptions about karma. What do you mean now if I have doubt about those things? I'm planting a negative state of mind. What are you talking about? Now you're tricking me, right? And he said it. I heard it because I listened to the original recording before sharing it here. He was very clear in saying, as scientific investigators of your mind, as good Buddhas, Lord Buddha said, do not believe anything I say because I said it. You must take it in, chew it, process it, and come to your own conclusions. And if it doesn't fit if you did do a proper investigation and it doesn't fit your reality, or you didn't come to the right understanding, don't take it on face value. Because if you do, you're going to have to listen to the next bastard that pops up and says, you should believe in pink skies, or blah, because I said so. Right? So you must necessarily go through an investigative, probing process of any and all of this information. Now, in addition to that, he says, if you don't come to the same conclusion, and if you have some uncertainty about where you'll fall about past lives, future lives, karma, emptiness, etc., don't just diss it. Don't just throw it out because you don't fully understand it. Keep it on the shelf until the teacher explains it better or you heard it better. Yeah, you don't necessarily throw it, right? So my shelf got really big over a long period of time. So Tetsom means lazy doubt, meaning a doubt you either don't want to go through the process of learning, meaning I don't want to go through the meditation that says, do I understand all the information about past and future lives? And where do I fall? Does the mind and the body, do the mind and the body come together? Are they separate things? Do they continue? Does the body, the physicality of a being continue from atoms down, breaks down and so on? Does the mind continue and so on? Look through the arguments, understand the arguments, study the, and then come to your conclusion with a pro and con. If you don't want to go through that, don't diss it, put it on the shelf. But that's the lazy doubt he's talking about here. Having all the information and not going through the mechanics of understanding it and then meditating and investigating and coming to your firm conclusion is the lazy doubt they're talking about here.
So what is
Second,
what was that first point?
don't just believe it because the teacher said. There's no logic in that at all.
Okay.
As a good Buddhist, you must be a skeptic. The Buddha said so. The Buddha said you've got to test these things. Otherwise, you're not going to transform your world because the Buddha ain't transforming it for you. If they could, they would have already done it. You are the Buddha. You are the one transforming it. To transform it, you have to become a Buddha. To become a Buddha, you got to understand how to do it. There's no Buddha outside of your perception that will ever fix your problem. Now, the one in your perception will fix your problem. That's you. But it's not this you, it's the Buddha you. Confusing? The second Tetsom is maybe you came to the conclusion but you don't want to accept it. So lazy doubt is like, okay, I know there's something about that conclusion, but it's affecting the way I live so much that I'm just not taking that on because I like the way I'm living. I don't have to meditate an hour a day. I don't have to do it. Lazy doubt refers to having some logical understanding of the way things exist, the way things are explained, testing it, breaking it, coming to those conclusions, and then living in accord with that. If you really understand that things come from you, are you living in accord with that? And for me, the answer is no. I'm still lost in a stupid cyclic reaction. So then, level 2. Do I believe in the 4 powers? Do I think I can clean enough of the negativity I'm doing? Yeah, I do. Do I think if I spend enough time meditating, I can pierce through the blind spots that force me to do that? Yes, I do. Right? So it wasn't a catch-22 like I thought it was a catch-22. If you have doubt about this, you're stupid. You know? It's not. It's actually if you have doubt after you've done the investigation and you've come to the correct conclusion and you're just too lazy to do it, that's what this is talking about. It's that you're not putting the energy in your spiritual development to evolve. So why are you expecting evolution? Right? That's what this is talking about. The next one, which I'll start and then we'll do the next 5 flavors of that after the break. It's called Tawa. Say Tawa?
Tawa.
Tawa. Great. And this means wrong view, wrong world view. Okay? And there's 5 flavors of that. And when you get these 5 flavors together with the previous 5 nyomongs, you get the top 10 nyomongs. The top 10 kleshas, the top 10 things that disturb your mind from being free from this cycle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
On the return, quickly we'll do 5 tawas, which are the real gods, and the first one is the big one. And then we'll talk about Master Shantideva ordering us to go to war. Not with terrorists, not with people that look different to us, not with people we dislike, not with another country, not with another race. War with the thing that's living in our house and we can't see it. So let's come back at 15:15. Can we have a 4-minute break, go pee, drink, and come back? We'll sit here, we can eat, and then I'll do 15 minutes of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.